Well, hello everyone and welcome to another very exciting episode here on the MIgardener channel. We're going to be doing a complete growing guide on sweet potatoes. So let's jump right on into it and first talk about some very specific things that sweet potatoes need to grow for you, because I know a lot of people want to grow them, but they get easily discouraged because they are a little more difficult, and you might be able to rule out some things right away that might make them impossible to grow for you. And the first is temperature. These actually do very well in warm temperatures. So if you do not have the nights getting above 50, because they need those warm nights, and then they also need warm days. These grow amazing down in Georgia and Mississippi and those states that are very hot and very humid. So here in Michigan, it's not Georgia and it's not Mississippi, so it's sometimes hit or miss depending on how our summer goes, but it is possible to grow them and have successful sweet potatoes. But you need to have the days at least in the 80s, if not the 90s. 100s would be preferred, but again, that's very difficult here in Michigan. We might only get a handful of days in the hundreds. So at least 80s, 90s is preferred, hundreds is best. And then also with that is humidity. They really need a lot of moisture to produce well. They don't like dry, arid soil. So we water these very frequently here because they need to produce tubers, and the tubers are actually their stores for next year. And so they're similar to potatoes, but they're not even in the same family as potatoes. They're actually in the same family as morning glories. So the sweet potatoes, again, they need that high temperatures and the high humidity. The next thing they need is very good, well-draining soil. Because they produce tubers, you cannot put them in clay because the tubers won't get any big. They won't get very big. They'll just be compacted by the clay soil. So we have them in here in ground. It's definitely possible, but we have them in a berm. We've raised the berm up about 6 inches, and that's solid compost. And then we also have pretty good soil underneath the plants as well. So as they send down roots, they're going to be fine. Now, a lot of people there's two different types of sweet potatoes. There's one that will set down tubers along the vine, but there's also ones that will set down tubers right where you plant, and it will simply vine. Both of them will vine, but only one variety will set down tubers all along the vine, and there's only one type of sweet potato that will set sweet potatoes all along the vine, and the majority will set sweet potatoes right where you plant them. That's the variety that we grow because of the fact that when you plant the plants, you don't necessarily want them producing potatoes all throughout. It'd be great, but it takes so much energy to do that, and here in Michigan, we'd rather have some sweet potatoes than no sweet potatoes. So that's one thing that we take into account is the variety that we plant. And again, this is called Georgia Jet. It's a very reliable sweet potato variety. Now, the next thing is when you want to plant. You do not want to plant them in the early spring. You want to wait till about 3 to 4 weeks after your last frost. You want the soil to have warmed up a bit, because when you plant the slips, they go through transplant shock very, very easily. And let me warn you, it took me about 2 years not to kill my plants almost immediately, because I would throw them in when I threw everything else in and they would die. And I did some research, and that is why. You want to make sure the soil temperatures are above 45 degrees, which sometimes you think it's 45. It's not 45, trust me. So you want to make sure the temperatures are 45 degrees or above. And then also, now we're talking about nutrients, because nutrients are very important. With the sweet potatoes, it is extremely important to feed them a high nitrogen fertilizer because they're a vining plant and they're producing lots of leaves, which is producing energy to produce the tubers. That is what you want to focus on. Nitrogen deals with leaves. So we've fed them a very nitrogen-rich fertilizer. We give everything here Trifecta Plus, so that's what we've used. But a very nitrogen-rich fertilizer that you can find that doesn't have anything else in it, which isn't the greatest, but to get the nitrogen in at least, use blood meal. Blood meal is an organic way to get great nitrogen in your soil. So that's another thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do is it's called Chilean nitrate. That's another way to get nitrogen in. It's an organic solution. It's a little bit harder to find, but that's also a possibility to get the nitrogen in the soil. And then the very last thing that I want to talk about is pH. The pH of the soil just needs to be slightly acidic. We have here a pH of about 6.5, which is very slightly acidic. 7 is neutral, so the pH needs to be about 6.5. 6.0 would be preferred, but we don't fiddle with it. If it's slightly acidic, it's perfectly fine. And that's really it. You want to wait till the plants grow nice and large. They're going to flower for you. The flowers don't mean anything. It just means that they are producing tubers under there. You want to wait for the vines to die back at the end of the season, just like you do potatoes. And when they start to not look as alive, you want to go back to where you initially planted. Sometimes I'll put a little, one of the electrical flags that the electrical company puts out when they have underground wires. I take those electrical flags because it won't ruin any of the roots, and it tells me where I put the plant initially, because right now it's just, you know, it's about 6-7 inches tall and maybe 5 inches around. However, by the end of the season, it will take up all of this space. And I guess that leads me to spacing, which I almost forgot. Spacing, when you're planting with plants that only put down tubers right where you plant them, the spacing is not as crucial. If you have the vining variety that put down tubers all around the plant, you want to space them about 4 to 5 feet apart, because they will vine every ounce of that. Every inch of that. Not ounces weight, inches length. Okay, every inch of that. We're having a good day here in the garden. But with the variety that puts down tubers right where you plant, you can space them about 1.5 feet to 2 feet apart, just like you would potatoes. So hopefully that helps. I wish you all the best of luck growing sweet potatoes, and let me know if you've ever had any luck with sweet potatoes in the comments box below. I'd love to know. Check out other growing guides we have. I think we have like 22, 23 now over on MIgardener.com, or we have a playlist, which I will hopefully link in the description box below. And hopefully you all having a great day. Hopefully you all are growing bigger going home, and I'll talk to you all later. This is Luke from the MIgardener channel. See ya. Bye.